Hey, this is Joe with SoFly, and in this video, we are going to export WooCommerce orders to a very specific XML specification using WP All Export. So to get started, we'll go down here to All Export and select New Export, and then we'll select WooCommerce Orders from the dropdown. Now we have 5,754 orders that need to be exported. If we wanted to, we could filter these with a set of rules, like if we wanted to only include orders with a certain status or from a certain state, or with, that may include a certain product or anything like that. In this case, we're just going to export everything. So we'll select Customize Export File right here. And this is where we set up our export file. So by default, we're just going to get a spreadsheet, right? It's just going to be a CSV, but we need to do an XML file. So we'll go down here and then we'll select Feed. And this is going to be a simple XML feed. We'll preview it. And you can see here, this is my simple XML feed. And I can drag and drop to rearrange items, right? So now title's the second one. And then I can click in here and I can change the element name just like that. And there you go. But this is pretty basic. So let's take a look at the actual XML specification. So here it is, and you can see it's pretty complicated. So let's copy this. And then we're going to go over here to Custom XML Feed. Let me paste that in. So you can see here, what we have here is we have, this is the default that we get, right? Has a begin loop and an end loop. And then everything in here is going to be repeated for every order that gets exported, right? Okay, so let's take this. I'm going to take the begin loop and I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to put that right here. I'm going to take the end loop. I'm going to put that down here. Okay, so this block here is going to be repeated for every single WooCommerce order that gets exported. So we'll go up here and we'll delete this. Okay. So here's kind of the bare bones of what we have. Now what we need to do is we need to go in and we need to replace all of these bits of data with my actual order export data, right? So we'll start here with the order ID. So we'll go over here, we'll drag in our order ID. And you can see here, this bit of data is what's going to actually be my order ID. See, there's my order ID right there, but I need to put it up here. So what we'll do is we'll just take this guy here, copy that, and we'll paste it in, and then we can delete this. Perfect. There we go. So now let's get the order status in there. So my order status right here, instead of dragging it in, I can just write this out myself, save a little bit of time. Let's check that out. Perfect. And the only problem is it says WC completed, and in my spec, it needs to say processed. So what we'll do is I'm going to use a simple PHP function here. So I'm going to put this in brackets. That means this is now going to be processed as PHP. We're going to use str replace. And we're going to look for WC completed. And we're going to replace that with processed. And then that's going to be run on order status. And then we'll close off our function. That looks good. Let's give it a run. Okay, there we go. So now it's processed. Now, if I wanted to, let's say I had multiple order statuses in here, I could go down and I could replace this and I could write, I could call this, let's say replace status. And then I could go down to the function editor and I could create a new function, replace status. And what it does is it would, I could feed it in order status and I could have like an array with a list of all the different order statuses in WooCommerce, and I could change them. So it could be, whatever the specification needs. If orders that, if it has like here, it would say, for example, these are processed if it's completed. And if it's incompleted, it would be called something like, let's say incomplete, but WooCommerce would have a different order status if it's incomplete, but that would have to match this one. So I could make an array with all of those and kind of map them out. And create, a custom function that would do all of that. And I could pass that data in. In this case, though, this is all we need to worry about. So we'll stick with stl replace. to be deleted, we'll leave that hard-coded as false. And now let's move on to our product line items. So every product, so every order can have multiple products associated with it, right? So let's replace this with our SKU. So we'll go down here to items, SKU. So we'll just put SKU in here. And now what WPL import is going to do is it's going to repeat that for every order. So this XML element is repeated twice, once for this product and once for this product. And that's because this order has two products, right? This one has two products. This one only has one product, right? Pretty snazzy. Now, the way that this XML feed is going to be used for me is I'm going to send this XML to my fulfillment center. So these orders are not yet shipped, right? These are pending. So I'm going to hard code this as pending, right? Because every order that I get is going to be pending. The payment transactions, we'll put our payment transaction ID in there. So let's go find that. There we go, transaction ID. So we'll go ahead and replace this with transaction ID. Preview that. And there we go. So it looks like we're done. That is our XML feed complete. It matches and everything looks good. We have some advanced options over here, pretty much all related to C data. If you're curious about C data, you can read more about it here. Don't really need to worry about it though. WPL import will take care of it for you and wrap your data in C data tags if you need it. Okay, so let's go ahead and continue. So there's a few ways we can get this export to run. The default is to just run it as a one-time export. It's just going to export all 5,000 of my orders into my XML feed, and then we're good to go, right? But with XML, you probably need to run this dynamically. And what do I mean by that? Is there's a few different ways. So you could run it on a schedule, right? So you could use our scheduling service. It costs $9 a month. And you could run this, every day at midnight. So every day at midnight, this XML feed is going to be processed and then we're good to go. Or you could do it, once a month on Monday. Now some other options over here. Okay, so let's say I have an external fulfillment center, right? And they need to get the order data in this format. And basically every time I get an order, I send them this data and then they fulfill my order for me. So if that's the case, what I would do is I would select export each WooCommerce order in real time as they're completed. And then every time I get a new order, it's going to generate my XML feed with just that one order. And then what we can do is we can go to Zapier and we can set up a Zap. And what that'll do is basically every time this order is completed, it's going to send that data to Zapier. And then Zapier is going to do whatever I tell it to do, right? It can send it via email, or it can send it as an HTTP post request. So you can get that into my fulfillment center's system if they have an API or something like that. Pretty snazzy. Or what I could do is I could say only export orders once, set this up in a schedule, and then run this every day at midnight. So then every day at midnight, I get the last day's orders, all in my little XML feed, right? Those are going to be the most common ways that you're probably going to need to use an XML feed like this if you're running it automatically in a dynamic fashion. Now, in this case, we're just going to go ahead and run the export once. If you're curious about any of these options, check the description below. We have other videos on scheduling, about real-time exports, and other videos. So yeah, we're just going to run this now, and then we'll take a look at the output. So it'll take a few minutes. We got about 5,000 orders to export. We'll let it run, and we will come back in a few minutes. All right, so our export is complete. Let's download it and check it out. And there it is. There is our XML feed. Pretty snazzy. So down here, we have a secure URL. We can generate one of these. And then with this URL, anytime we go to this URL, it's just going to spit out the most recent version of our export, our XML feed that we created. So what we could do is if we had this running on a schedule, we could have our schedule set up And then we can use this URL and give it to whatever our fulfillment center or whatever script we have running, whatever needs to access this data, right? We also have Zapier over here. Check this video out. It explains how to hook this up to Zapier so that every time you run this export, you can have the file emailed somewhere, or more likely you can have it sent somewhere via HTTP post to your fulfillment center's API or something like that, whatever you need to do. So that is all it takes to export your WooCommerce orders to a very specific XML specification using WPL export. Thanks for watching, and we hope to see you soon.